I want to start this video with a question. When you're standing in front of a scene, how much time do you spend making sure you're getting exactly what you want? Are you exploring angles? Are you actively searching for better composition? If the answer to this question is that you don't, here also lies the answer to why you need to work on the composition of every photo when you get back home. The first photo you take when you see a scene is almost always a mistake, because that first frame is not a composition, it's just your physical reaction to noticing the subject. The default spot where your feet naturally stopped is rarely the best place for your camera. So ask yourself, when was the last time when you moved while shooting? Not by zooming in and out, not by cropping at home later, actually moved. Actively examined what happened there. Someone who doesn't move can buy all the lenses in the world and get the best camera that is out there, but that will not change the image that this person produces. To close the gap between your current work and the work you want to be is not the path of improving your tools, but improving the way you photograph. And big part of that is composition, and composition starts with movement. I know all that because I was that guy with a kit of the latest gear and a very average photographs. You see something, you raise the camera, you press the shutter, and then you move on. You might not even like the image straight away, but instead of working towards a better one, you just carry on and be like, I'll fix it later. So today, let's talk about what happens in that moment, the moment before the shutter is pressed. But first, a small story with a few images. I was in Hoi An, a small beautiful city in the center of Vietnam. The yellow walls are one of the city's signature looks, and naturally a lot of people take photos there. But I wanted something more than just someone standing next to a yellow wall, right? So I found an area where the wall is beautiful and where people come to take photos of themselves, and I hang out there for some time. But there was this couple. They were wearing matching outfits, believe it or not, but this is a big thing in Asia, and it's always an opportunity for the photographer. So when I saw this matching couple, I said, okay, there is a scene with potential here. And I took a few photographs. The first photograph was about them, a very simple approach. It was about the two people wearing matching clothes. I even waited for other people to pass so they don't accidentally pollute my frame with their presence. But then my idea changed. I said, well, why only them? But why not do something else? Why not try to introduce something more interesting? So I decided that instead of waiting for the passing people to pass, I would actually try and integrate them into the frame as contrasting elements. So what I had now was the strong visual anchor, the matching clothes couple, but also some different images that introduced unrelated people getting into the scene. Now, the photos were not only about the couple, but about what else is happening there. If I would just come and take a photo and go, I would miss this wonderful opportunity. The decision to give the scene an opportunity to develop led to richer photographs. And this is not the only reason to do it. Imagine that you're on a market, the kind of place where 5 different things are happening at the same time and you don't know where to look and everything is overwhelming. And then you see something. Let's say a guy is selling some secondhand stuff. And something captures your eye, like the bicycle he's selling, and you're trying to compose something with that bicycle. You do an attempt, take your photo, and go away. And you're sure, like, yeah, I kind of got it. Later in front of the computer, you could see that you didn't have it at all. Did something like this ever happen to you? Write me in the comments. This photograph ended up being an attempt to show off composition. There is nothing that is actually interesting for the viewer. If you would try and explore different angles and include more of the market and try to make it more interesting, it might have been a better image. But I didn't, or you didn't. And that's why we ended up with something like this. And you keep asking yourself, but why? I was there. I felt it. I saw a potential. And I felt that I can get something out of this situation. Why doesn't the photo communicate it? The answer is simple. You didn't take the time to discover it. That first angle is always a mistake. So what is recomposing and why do we need to do it? You see something worth photographing, and instead of just pressing the shutter from where you're standing, you move. The default position from where you notice your subject is in most cases not the best one. You need to change something physical in your relationship to the subject that you're trying to photograph. So you move around and you explore. You circle, you wait, you observe, and then when through exploration you stumble into an angle and a moment where everything connects together, only then you press your shutter. You take the photos in between too, but you're waiting for that moment that everything works together. Sometimes you might stumble into your great photograph, but sometimes you might have a very clear idea of what you're going for and just search for the best way to execute it. Now what that movement, that dancing around does to the image is where it gets really interesting. A lot of photographers would think that when they recompose, they simply change the framing. where the subject sits in the frame. Basically, rearrangement of things. And that is true, but it is only the beginning. When you move, everything changes. And I mean everything. So let's see what exactly changes. Let's start with the one that has the strongest impact on how your image reads. And this is light. Light has a direction. Light has an angle. When you are standing in one place, the light hits your subject in one specific way. Shadows fall one way. The light either shapes your subject or it flattens it. At the moment you take a step to the side, that relationship completely changes. What was flat can suddenly have depth. What was harsh can become soft and beautiful. And this is something that you cannot replicate at home. You cannot crop your way into a better light. There is no way to do it, but you can definitely find your way into better light at the moment. The light is there, the subject is there. All you need to do is find how that light illuminates your subject in the way that best communicates your visual idea. Let me show you a practical example. These photographs were all taken in the same place within 5 minutes interval. Look how different they look. It's the same lens, the same camera. What is different is my angle in a relationship to the subject and the way that light works from that particular angle. So the first reason to recompose is light and the way light communicates with your subject and environment. The next thing that recomposing impacts is size. When you move closer, the subject gets bigger and more dominant. This is a great way to put emphasis on something or someone. Quite simple, right? And you could argue that this is something that is easily done at home with the crop tool, right? But here's what's not so simple. When you move closer with your feet, the relationship between you, the subject, and everything around it changes. The background compresses differently, the foreground can shift, the subject doesn't just get bigger, it becomes more present and more connected to where it actually is. When you step back, the opposite happens. The subject becomes smaller. The smallness also means something. It can be used as a compositional way to reduce someone's significance, make them smaller in a competition to the rest of the world. There is no right or wrong about how much a subject should take in your frame. There is no formula for that. But by getting closer and further away, you explore your subject's meaning in the environment and stop when you feel that it fits your idea. Here, for example, I wanted the subject to merge in the background, basically making everything feel like a painting. Here, on the other hand, I wanted strong presence to make sure that the subject is visually loud. At the end, that meaning has to be your choice, a deliberate one. You can, of course, choose to explore these choices back home, but you will be losing a lot of the geometrical impact of a crop choice versus a distance choice. Now the third one, the angle. This one changes everything about how the viewer feels towards your subject. The angle you're shooting from can define many things. A photo from above, the subject will feel small, perhaps vulnerable. You're literally looking down on them. If your subjects are at your eye level, they feel equal. This is how we naturally perceive the world, and this is how we participate in human-to-human conversation. If you shoot from below, you give your subject power. They feel strong, larger than life. So if you photograph the same person with the same exact light in the same exact moment, and if you change the angle, you will have 3 completely different stories. And it doesn't end there. Shooting angle is a great way to connect things or align things in the frame. Changing your angle can connect objects together or push them further apart. A lower or a higher angle is also a great way to deal with busy scenes and distractions. Now suddenly, your subject has the sky as a background instead of the huge crowd of people. And this is something you can't recreate in post. The angle is decided at the moment you press the shutter. If you don't think about it, you got whatever angle your body happened to be in. And that is almost always a mistake. And that brings me to number 4, relationships. This is where photography gets really interesting to me. Every photograph has more than one element. Yes, there is the subject, but there is also everything else. Walls, signs, other people, objects, colors, hands, reflections, basically everything that ends up inside of the frame. When you stand in one place, these elements have a very specific relationship to each other. And if you're not careful, they can overlap and create visual mass, overpower your subject, or simply feel unrelated to the image you are trying to create. How many times did it happen to you that you came home and in front of the computer you discovered that there is something in the frame that ruins readability? Was it once? Was it twice? Was it more? At the moment you move, those relationships change. It's like a magic puzzle. You do small adjustments, but that has a massive impact on all relationships. The head of a person is landing on a background with similar tonality and is unreadable. A step to the right, and your subject is now readable and properly isolated. And this can be done with anything. Once you develop the habit, you will realize how much you can change by simply move. When you're dealing with composition, you're the maestro of the visual opera, and you manage the visual relationships between all of the elements. And this is another thing that you cannot do from your couch. You can do it only on the spot, and you do it by moving yourself. That's the work, and it only happens in the field. The movement through the scene brings me to number 5, the background. I have ruined a lot of photographs with bad background, more than I want to admit. Actually, I didn't ruin them, I was simply unaware its strong impact. You see the subject, you focus on the subject, you press the shutter, and later there is a garbage bin or anything else right behind them, and that's pulling the attention and weakening the photograph. When you move around your subject, the background also changes. You can drastically change your subject background by simply exploring the 360 degrees around him. It's a completely different background from every different side. A background can be the difference between an okay photo and a great one that you can proudly put on your wall and show it to your friends. I do have an extensive video about the background mistakes you should avoid. You should check it out, and I will add it in the video description. Now we're going deeper with number 6, distractions. Apart from the background, you can have all kinds of distractions. They don't necessarily sit at the back of your frame, but they can be on the side and even before the eye reaches your subject. It can be something in the foreground that the eye keeps just bouncing to it. A tree branch that is snuck into your frame. Anything, distraction, something that is blocking you from reaching your subject. Cropping can help when the distraction is on the edge. You can cut it out, but some distractions are inside of the frame, and cropping doesn't touch these, but moving does. When you develop the habit of looking through the viewfinder from different positions, you will start to see the distractions and eliminate them before they become a problem. By moving around, you will find a place where the frame is clean, where everything in it belongs there. Now, number 7 took me the longest to understand, and it might be the most important one from today's video. When you start photographing something, you have an idea, but that first idea is not always the right one. It's just the first one, the most obvious one. Through exploration, when you keep moving around, when you recompose again and again, something starts to happen. You suddenly see things that you didn't expect. A relationship between two elements that was invisible from where you were standing. An angle that changes what the image is actually about. And sometimes the photograph you end up taking is completely different from the one you started with. Not just in terms of composition, but also in meaning. You just create a new photograph. Let me give you a practical example of what that looks like. This photo was taken in Vietnam. There is this tradition to gain merit. You buy a fish and release them into the pond or river. On the first photograph, you can't really see what is happening. When there is a girl near the water, a man is standing behind her, and there is another girl looking at them. The photo was taken from the first angle I saw them. If you look at it carefully, it does tell the story, but it's just okay. Now here's another photograph that is taken several moments later. Everything changes here. The background changed, the framing changed, there is one participant less, but also the idea changed. Now it's about family, about connection, about tradition, not just the documentation of what happens. This new idea penetrates deeper, and I only found it because I moved, and that's what recomposition does to your idea. It develops it, it takes it further than you could get standing still. Many of my better photographs were born exactly that way. That's how it often happens. You start working in one way and you arrive at something else. This image is one of the more popular ones I took. But that was not the first image. That was not the first angle. It was actually the 9th one. And I took 6 more after getting it. I tried several composition and I timed myself to different variations of the scene once I liked the composition. So it wasn't born like this. It was a process of discovering it. Which brings me to number 8, the Holy Grail. The moment. When you explore the scene, something else happens. You are not exploring only the visual part of things. Yes, your angles and the relationships change, but as you are doing it, time gets into the equation. The moment changes. That moment is not sitting still and waiting for you to compose up with the perfect composition, it moves and jumps around. So what you do is, at the same time you're exploring the scene from different angles, you also trying to time yourself to the events that are happening in front of your lens, in that scene, at that time. You change your position, you take a shot. You change it again, you take another one. Recomposing is fine, but we also need to make sure that we are not missing the moment. And look, as much as I'm bashing it, cropping is fine. Sometimes it's exactly the right call. You are responsive, you are chasing the moment, and you couldn't compose it exactly right. From whatever reasons. We're not perfect, and it happens. But now you already know what a crop cannot do. It cannot change your angle. It cannot change how light is falling on your subject. It cannot change the relationship between your subject and the background. It cannot remove a distraction from inside of the frame. It cannot change the moment. Everything is fixed in the moment you press the shutter. So cropping comes after that part, after the photo was taken. Recomposing means you are still there. The moment is still there. The moment is still there, and you have a chance to make a different photograph, not a trimmed version of the first one, a different one with better light, with better relationships, better meaning, and a better moment. The biggest takeaway that you need to take from this video is that the crop happens after. Recomposition happens now. And this is why experienced photographers recompose. It's not because they follow a rule, it's because they understand something fundamental. A photograph is not just a subject. They understand that all of its elements are connected, and all of these elements change at the moment you move. Experienced photographers don't just see the subject, they see the whole frame. They feel when something is off, and they move to fix it, and they fix it now. They keep recomposing until everything in the frame belongs there and until everything is the right spot. This is a habit, one that takes time to build, but it will make you a better photographer. And it starts with one decision: to not be satisfied by that first shot from the first spot. So next time you raise your camera, before you press the shutter, ask yourself a few questions. Is this the only place I can stand? Is this a good angle? Is the composition okay? Are the relationship working? And maybe the answer is yes, and you take the shot, but still take the opportunity to explore some more options. That will allow the story and the vision to develop, and perhaps something will happen there, and you will end up with a truly great image. I hope it was clear. Happy to answer any of your questions in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Happy shooting!